so my coworker should have been there, but he's not because his wife is giving birth tonight. So let's. Okay, thank you. So why are we here? I don't know for you, but for me it's quite clear that AngularJS performs well for small app. If you have one watch, if you have one bind, if you have an ng repeat with like 50 elements, it's okay. But problem appears when your DOM start to be quite complex. So in our case, we are developing the application abilities that I'm going to show you. So it's a document management system. Basically, you put all your PDF in ability, and then you can share it with other people, etc. So we notice that if we have less than 200 documents, it's okay. Everything's very smooth. But more than 350 documents about, and things kind of turn wrong. So just to show you what we are working on. Yeah, so I removed some stuff because it was I cannot display them. But basically, yeah, we are working on this. So it's you can imagine it's a very sequence of ng repeat and list and binding. So the thing is, we were not thinking about this at the first place, but user really needs a lot of documents. So they put like thousands of PDF in their repository, and things go wrong. So we kind of struggle for a long time how to manage this. So now I'm gonna talk about the pitfalls of AngularJS, and then we can. So yeah, when you do it, you can apply, because when you work outside AngularJS, you can always apply and everything is great. But yeah, it's not so great actually. So the digestive track. Yeah, it's quite important to have some knowledge about how the digestive, how Angular digest actually work. So when you bind the value in AngularJS, so you bind value using, for instance, ng model, ng repeat. You bind the value also with controllers. You can bind the value using the curly notation here too. So what Angular do is it will create a watch on that value. And so all watch elements are added to a watch list. The watch list being so all the watch function being triggered when you enter the apply and then the digest. So you have here from the documentation the process of the digest loop. So we have a watch list. And then when an event queue will, when something will change on the scope, so for instance, ng click will trigger an apply, all watch function will be triggered. And this actually can be quite costly. So we will try to avoid to watch everything, because you can watch like 1,000 elements. And you don't want to trigger 1,000 functions each time something changes. I mean, it will be quite obviously very costly. So when you watch too much, yeah. So from Misko, which is an AngularJS developer, we cannot. It's not possible in an AngularJS application. It's possible, but it's not advisable to have more than 2,000 watchers. So this quotation is basically, if you have more than 2,000 stuff on a web page, it's messy and you should not do it anyway. Okay, fair enough. But what about lazy load? I mean, you can have scrolling on your page. You can have on Facebook, you can have like on your wall, you can have like 100 of notification. So what about this? So human can't process this anyway. Okay, yeah. But and the bad thing is everything is a watcher basically in AngularJS. Every directive that we'll use from Angular, every Angular directive will either watch something or will either trigger and apply when an event will be triggered. So, for instance, ng class, ng I, ng if, ng show, ng style. So here we have the Angular code from ng hide. And you see that, so basically, ng when you cross this directive, it will scope.watch the arc.ng-hide. So yeah, and the callback function, of course. So yeah, ng-hide is also watcher, like every directive in AngularJS. So you can watch too much by having this kind of constructor, this kind of directive. But also when you have when you're using the ng-repeat construction. So I think ng-repeat is of course one very good feature of Angular, but the bad thing is that ng-repeat will if you have a watcher on one element of the ng-repeat, and if you repeat it 50 times, of course you will have 50 watchers. And so Theo actually built this diagram. So I'm not sure what he was going to say about it, but just to say we put it on Stack Overflow just to check that the diagram was correct, and also on AngularJS Google Code, and we have no confirmation at the moment. So I'm not. I think it's correct. So if you have a better idea, but so the idea basically is anyway, if you apply a filter, you will not watch the element that is filtered. So if you apply a filter, you remove the element and you don't watch it, so that's good. And okay, when something changes or DJSQL is triggered, the ng-repeat is triggering, so you have to process everything a second time. So let's talk about filters. So it's a very convenient way when you want to filter. So if you've got like 1,000 items in a list, you want to filter it. For instance, to show more items when the user scroll at the bottom of the page. So the bad thing, there will be a showcase. A bad thing about filter is they will execute multiple times for every digest cycle. So each time, so if you've got a filter, for each time a ng-click will trigger a digest cycle, you will execute all your filters, all the filters that are constructing in your HTML. So this means that the filtering function of the filter will execute multiple times, even if the underlying data have not changed. And if the filter is costly, then you will have a lot of process for nothing basically. So you can optimize this. Instead of placing the filter in the HTML, you can inject the filter service in your application, and if x66 is a service, injects the x66 filter. So, what does it mean? It means basically, so here is some nasty code.
Can you increase the size?
Oh yeah, I guess
View.
Presentation mode, yeah.
Oh, there's a presentation one?
View.
Menu view. Second less.
Enter presentation.
Oh, nice. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So they cannot see. So here we add this. Yeah,
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. We had this chapter filter. Yeah, that was our filter. And the thing is, we used lazy load, and so the lazy load, I mean lazy scroll, you know. So each time you scroll, it checks the last element of the scroll, and if the last element is near the bottom of the screen, it will add new element. So it's a way to perform lazy load with scrolling and to display less element at the beginning. And so each time you scroll, it was triggering the search chapter filter, which is quite a heavy filter because it works on tree and yeah, it's nasty. So you can inject this service and then just search chapter filter. Yeah. Then update just trigger the filter when it's needed. So this filter was used to when you click on one item when you click on one item here, okay, the filter was filtering every item that were not either this element or children of this element. Okay, so it's quite costly because it must compare all the ID and it must compare the sun, etc. And it was triggered because of the scroll. Each time the scroll was triggering the digest, and it was triggering this filter, and it was then quite flickery. So yeah, one solution is to inject your filter. Okay, oh yeah, so showcase. So the number of watches, how do they affect performance? So if you're not convinced with the fact that number of watches affect performance, yeah. So yeah.
On the presentation.
So just about the number of watches, you could think that watches are not so much a big deal, but I'm gonna show you if internet works that watches are actually a big deal. What's up with internet here? Oh yeah, okay. So at first, let's work with. Let's see about the filter. So I was telling you that the filter were triggered each time there is a digest that is triggered. So how to be convinced by this? So here I.
Can you scroll in a little bit? Scroll and control and scroll.
Yeah. Yeah, like this?
Yeah.
Can everybody see? Yeah. So here we have a basic ng repeat with a filter. So the filter is a filter function, okay, nothing special, and it will print all the name of our friends. And so filter function is defined here in the okay, and so the filter function will log filter function call when it's called. So what happens if and I put a mouse over on the element of the list. So the mouse over is associated to each element of the list here, and that will be called self-click. And what we see is if I mouse over an element, Okay, it calls the filter actually. It triggers digest and it calls every and it calls the filter 30 times because for each element it will call the filter. So it can be a huge performance problem if your digest cycle is triggered by a mouse over. I mean, everybody uses mouse over. We use it all the time. So here the mouse over triggers the filter, so it's a simple filter. It's okay, but still 30 elements.
I assume you didn't use Angular 1.3 here, right?
It's the same for Angular 1.3, I think.
Because there you have stateless. I mean, filters are by default.
Oh
stateless,
yeah,
right?
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And you need to explicitly say they're stateful in order that they recalculate every time.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. It's Angular 1.2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we use Angular 1.3 on our application, and it was still stateless filter. No, maybe the filter were not stateless. Yeah, it will be another point, stateless filter, because it allows to optimize. So.
Yeah, but then the problem is in most situations you need to use. You have a state.
Yeah,
And
that's,
then
yeah.
you need to.
Yeah, it's so and we saw how to write a manually triggered filters. So now best practices. Yeah, it's computer joke, but I didn't find any Angular specific computer joke. Will you believe it? Come on. So the general principle of the best practices, so it's not it's more our best practices, what we figure out by working with Angular. So it's basically limit the cost of the digest cycle, and this is done by reducing the number of watches and by for instance reducing the number of watches. Because if a scroll triggers a digest at each frame, so when you scroll each frame you've got a digest. If you want to reach 60 frames per second, you want a digest time that is less than 16 milliseconds. So maybe 60 frames per second is a lot, but it's what we want at least, I guess. So and with that we've got some strategies. So yeah, digest only when you need. I'm gonna see all these strategies. Digest only when you need, only the scope on the scope you need. So yeah, it's about the use of apply when you change something outside Angular. So you know to re-trigger a digest cycle, you need to call Angular scope apply or set timeout, for instance. So, but the bad thing about scope apply is that scope apply is roughly equivalent to root scope.digest. So what happens if you make a scope apply is that you will digest, you will trigger the watch and you will digest all your scope. I mean, all your scope hierarchy will, and likely some scopes that do not need to be digested. So instead of using scope digest, instead of using scope apply, you can use scope.digest, which can digest only on the current scope and all its child scope. And yeah, there's a showcase for this. Okay, if I call scope apply, it digests all the. But try it. I mean, the best way to see it is try it. You can have the presentation and try this kind of stuff. So if I call scope apply, the inner and the outer will be called,
Can you maybe show the whole markup so we can see what
Yeah.
the structure is?
Yeah, so you've got an outer scope here, CT2NG controller, and you've got inner scope. And when you call scope that apply on the outer scope, on the inner scope, I mean everybody is called, but when you call scope.digest, so on the only the inner scope it's called. So it's less expensive if you change something like in a directive. If you change something only in the directive context, it's better to call scope digest in that case because it will be obviously less expensive. And I was loading. Oh, Plunker is dead.
Plunker is down.
Yeah, Plunker is down. Okay. So to limit the number of watch, you can also use one-way binding. So the idea is to show a variable from the model without attaching a watch to it. So you will, before there was bind once, the bind once library that was working quite well. But now it's part of Angular since 1.3, and so for instance here if I want to use I don't want to use two-way binding in controller.stock, so I can write this before, and it will be one-way binding. One-way binding, and it won't use so it won't attach a watcher to this variable, and so it will be quite less expensive. But the use case was on Plunker, so I hope I can use it. Okay, Plunker seems to be dead, but. Okay, we will see if Plunker wants to work at some point. So yeah, something that quite interesting also. When you create a directive, and when the directive is called appears inside the repeater like ngRepeat, the compile. So you compile and link in the directive. And the compile is called only once, but link on the constructor will be called once per iteration. So it will be called multiple times for the same directive. So the idea is to limit what happens in the link function. So in the link function you don't have a scope, so you cannot you cannot rely on some stuff that will happen on the model, but you have still access to the attribute in the compile function, so you can already do some stuff, and it will be already more light in the compile. So the link function is called as much as there are clone directive. So the idea is if you got to modify the DOM, for instance, when you create a directive, try to get as much work in the compile step instead of in the link step. So it's also emphasized in the Angular doc. Any operation what can be shared among the instance of directive should be moved to the compile function for performance reason. So that is good to know. So the fiddle shows
Can
this.
you maybe explain the difference of the link function and the compile function?
This is half an hour talk.
Maybe in a few I don't know, in a few words or
In a few
because
words.
now you tell us we should do stuff in the compile function,
Yeah.
not in the link function. But when do we need? How do we need to decide?
I mean, basically, if you need the scope, you will have to use a link function at some point because you cannot access the scope from the compile function. It's more for operations that can be shared among different instances of the directives that you can use the compile function. So if, for instance, if something will change everything in all instances of the directive, you can do this in the compile function. I'm not sure if it's clear or... Yeah. So yeah, it's basically here I created two directives. So directive 1 with a link function that repeat that log repeat 1. That just creates an element and put it. Okay. And the second directive has only a compile attribute, okay, compile function, I mean, and so it's just basic DOM manipulation. It creates an image and it puts the Angular logo in it. But when we put this directive in repeaters, so the first one is shown here and the second one is shown here. So we see that the repeat 2 function will be called only once, so it's much less operation, and the render one will be called 3 times. So yeah, it worth it to put like the DOM manipulation, which are quite expensive in the and since on the compile, yeah, you have access to the attributes. So you can still have Angular 2, and you could still have an attribute here. Okay, so it's still possible to, even if you don't have a scope. Okay, so removing the unneeded watcher. So yeah, here the idea is didn't know that at the beginning, but when you create a watcher on the controller, for instance, so yeah, this is a standard notation, and Angular will nicely provide you with a destroy function for this watcher. So to disable this watch, you just have to call the function myWatch, which is created by scope.watch. It's the same process for timeout. So of course the watcher will be automatically destroyed when scope the destroy is called. For instance, in the controller, scope the destroy is called when you remove this controller. But it might worth it if you have some watches that are not used anymore in a controller, for instance, to call all of them and to destroy all of them, because they take time. I cannot show you the plunker when you see that watcher take time, so it's too bad. On the root scope, yes, if you want to talk from service to controller, or from controller to controller, you can use root scope.emit and root scope.watch. It's quite usual to do it this way. And but this watcher won't be destroyed. Root scope.watch and something, they won't be destroyed if the controller is destroyed, because I guess because it's the root scope, so it does not belong to a specific. I mean, you never have root scope.destroy. So you will have to call explicitly myWatch here when the scope enclosing this line will be destroyed. Otherwise, you will unpile the watch, and it will also lead to either unexpected behavior or more likely performance issues. So what is needed? So maybe it's not up to date anymore, because I think the watch kind of changed. But the idea is sometimes you need a deep watch, so you need to watch the whole object with all its property. But most of the time you need to watch one simple property of the object. So instead of doing this big watch, scope.watch watch the entire object with all its property, and call the handler when the object is when something changes. You can just watch a function, because you can watch either an object, a string, or a function, and you can watch just the field that are relevant for your watching. So, for instance, if it's if you need to watch for new post, instead of making JavaScript parse the whole object and watch each of its property, it's better to watch only the precise thing, because you avoid all this hash process. So yeah, in Angular 1.4, so they introduces the watch collection. So I didn't use it so much, but it was to have a look, because you can watch then a group of objects. So instead of watching, if you want to watch an array, instead of watching the length of the array, you can use directly the watch collection constructor. So it's officially released now, Angular 1.4. So yeah, with it's unadvisable to place complex function into Angular expression. So what does it mean? It means that if you have this, you know that the bracket construct will be called each time there is a digest. It's why it's always up to date. But and you know that you can put function and expression in the bracket constructor. But then it will be called each time there is a digest, and each time there is a digest, it's quite often. I mean, there is it depends on your application, of course, but you can have digest each time there is a click, each time there is a mouse over, something like that. So so yeah, ngClick somewhere could trigger a lot of dirty checking. So the idea would be to pre-compute as much as you can, and don't let the expression watched make the computation. If you have some complex computation to be performed at each digest cycle, it's that something goes wrong. So, for instance, this function will be called at each digest cycle. So the best would be to either pre-compute the data, or cache it, or make it static. Yeah. So we will see an example of.
Use OR. This is expression to be evaluated. So you can say, let's say, computed data, or compute total data. Okay. And how expression is evaluated is lazy evaluated. So the first part, the cache will be still the value, and then so.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Or to do it in the function. Yeah, in the function, somewhat you just check that something changed in the function, and then you.
Nicer is to have this thing outside the function, so you can reuse the function for something else without caching, for instance.
So don't use mouse enter, mouse leave, etc. Why? I mean, because this directive will basically trigger each time a digest cycle. In general, you want to avoid directives that will trigger digest cycle very often, which can be the case with mouse over or mouse leave. So here we have a plunker, so it might not work actually.
Let me call Blocker.
Okay, but basically in this plunker, if you can see it later, there was a big ng repeat with a lot of items, and just ng mouse over that was changing the color of the item under the mouse. And with 2000 items, you see that it's really flickering, and it's really a bad user experience. So you can do this with CSS more simply. About the watching invisible elements, so the best is to use ngIf instead of ngShowHide, because ngShowHide, so it's basically the same use case. You want to hide something in a particular situation, so you use ngShowHide Boolean expression. It will hide it when the Boolean expression is true for ngHide, for instance. But it's not hiding in the same way. In the case of ngHide, the element is constructed in a way, and it has the ngHide CSS class, which sets the display of the element to none. To none. So what's bad about this is that the element, the DOM is constructed at first, and the watchers that are associated with this element are still active. So the best might be to use ngIf when you want to not show something. I'm not sure even why there is a to construct. The element will be removed from the DOM. So there is nothing that can be watched inside this element. Otherwise, a clone of the element is inserted into the DOM, and the scope is destroyed when the element is removed from the DOM. So you show that you don't have any watcher in the background running. The scope quite big is inherent from its parent scope. So okay. So there is on the same topic about you have a lot of elements. You want to remove watchers from a set of this element because it's too much watcher. So there is the slide evaluate only one and slide prevent evaluation when hidden. So it's two Angular libraries that prevent evaluation. So will remove the watcher if certain conditions are fulfilled. So the slide prevent evaluation when hidden is really useful because it will prevent the evaluation of watchers if the element is hidden. So if the element has a hide class, so it's really convenient because like if you use ngIf, the element is removed from the DOM. But you can still, so you don't have if you construct a big page, for instance, with a scroll, you don't want every element to be removed from the DOM because then the user don't know if he can scroll. There is no more scrolling. I'm not sure if it's clear. But the best idea is a better idea is to remove the watcher of the element. So you keep the element. The user can still see that there is a very long page, but this element costs nothing. So it's quite nice. So it can be used together with element visible to optimize watchlist. So for the case of the filter, when you filter something, it's the same idea as for the watch. So when you filter on a specific value, and you can maybe want to have some complex computation that is the logic of your filter. So instead of so it's the same idea as for watch. You will try to you don't want to do the intensive checking of input and input.age. Okay, you want to at first test input.age and then you test the intensive checking. So try to be smart when you construct your filters. It's never that kind of application, I know, but I mean it can lead to quite good performance improvement. So there are some built-in tools in ngRepeat. So the track by. So when you you use this kind of construct, item in items, track by item.id. So it allows Angular not to do a hash of item and to use only ID to track the item. And in other Angular, it also allows DOM caching. So when you remove element from the ng repeat, and when you add it, the removed element will be cached, and they will be faster to add to the DOM. So now this DOM caching is in the 1.3 version. The DOM caching is always done. So item in items is equivalent to items in items tracked by ID, but but ID item can be costly because it will basically hash the object item. So if the object item is quite big, it is quite costly to construct a nice function on it. So if your server provides a UID, unique ID identifier for your item, it will be better to use it. And of course the limit 2, so for the built-in tool for built-in tool is for ng repeat. So limit 2 is very useful because what's after limit 2 won't be constructed. It will limit the number of visible elements, so it can be used to create some lazy load scroll. What's about direct DOM manipulation with Vanilla.js or jQuery? It's not really a performance best practice, but it can be faster, so it can be a temptation to do it. So the general principle is don't use too much jQuery if there is another way. The good part is it's fast, there is no watches, and it needs a lot of engineering, so it's a lot of work for us. That's good. But the bad part is you cannot use anymore the whole power of AngularJS, and of course it leads to quite ugly code. So how to optimize the ng repeat? There are various ways. The more simple is to use pagination. So instead of having a repeat over 5,000 elements, you have 5 repeat over 1,000 elements, and then the user click next. So it obviously reduces the number of watch, but and it's quite a powerful tool, but it's not really the best user experience possible. Angular VS Repeat, so it's a virtual scroll tool, which is really easy to use. You just have to add this directive above your edge repeat, and you have quite a good performance boost. But it does not handle very well the borderline case, so like the nested edge repeats, and you cannot. It's quite difficult to do lazy loading with this. So the showcase I don't show, but basically in the showcase, if you want to have a look, they compare the use of VS Repeat with ng repeat for a simple case, and you see that it's wonderful. It's 0.5 milliseconds instead of 1 second. So yeah.
What does this VS repeat does? You wrap the ng repeat in a.
I'm not sure actually. I didn't dig too much into it. We tried to use it, but it was not fitting really well our use case. So. And quite a nice method, the method we use at the moment. So we use another directive, ng infinite scroll. It's an Angular library, and so the idea is So the yeah, but the idea of ng infinite scroll. So you've got this directive here, and it will. So when so you put it on a div, and when in your div you scroll to the last element of your div, it will call the function add more items. Okay? And so what can be done then is that in the function add more items, you will just expand the limit too, because we've got then ng repeat. So in the add more items, yeah, here we have so the ng repeat the infinite scroll is called each time you reach the end of the div by scrolling, and each time you reach it, it calls the function add more items, and then what we did is just expand this current scroll value, and then we add new element when the user reaches the end of the page, and so it gives quite a smooth user experience. So yeah, if you want to see. Just to show you. So basically, now I'm here, and if I scroll down, okay, so now I scroll down, and then it adds more items on the bottom, so the height of the scroll will change. I don't have any more items. Okay, so when we were looking on to construct performance talk, so there seems to be a debate at the moment concerning the use of ngbind over the curly notation. So there is this debate on Stack Overflow, but it's unclear. And GSPerf seems to say that the curly notation is better for at least for 10 or 20 elements. So yeah, for this I don't really know. We didn't test this, so yeah, maybe someone want to test and have some nice insight about this. Maybe not. So yeah, let's finish by talking about some measuring how to because I'm talking about performances, but what is at the end performances? It's if the user feels it's bad, okay, it's bad performance, it's not very clear. How can we measure objectively the performances of our Angular applications? So here, just basically to measure the time a list will take to render. So it's using the last property of the ng repeat to compute the total time of rendering of a list in ng repeat. So what we can measure effectively is at any time the number of watches. How many watches do you have in your application when you change the screen, when you do, you navigate your application and you constantly watch the number of watches. The delay of the digest, so how long do take the digest cycle. So we saw previously that if it's more than 16 milliseconds, you won't have 60 frames per second. And also, yes, the digest cycle of the root scope. So here is a small code snippet that just invoke. You can paste it in the console, and it just invoke a digest on apply actually, and it will log the performance to give you the performance of an apply. So the tools to monitor the performance. So there is Batarang that I'm not using so much. The developer tools profiler, so you can using Google Chrome, you can record the CPU monitoring. You can make CPU profile of your website. And there is NGStat that I just discovered that is quite nice. NGStat is it's just a directive that you can add to your yeah. So you add a directive. Maybe you don't see very well here, but you have here the number of watchers of your application. And here's the time of the cycle. I mean, it's wonderful. No? You can always monitor how it's going. And
50 Shades of Grey.
Wait.
It's responsive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you see it quite well if you. And it's really easy to set up. So yeah, that's nice.
What's the name of this one?
It's NGStat. Yeah, so in the concerning the future, so we can did what they say at the Angular team. Basically, dirty checking is quite slow now, but with object.observe that must happen in ECMA 7, I think. So native observer in the ECMA specification. A lot of Angular downsign will stop being relevant. That's nice. So in Angular 2, I think it's planned to use object.observe. And also there is a Watchtower, which is developed by Mixa. And you can already use it in Angular 1.4. So Mixa is one member of the Angular development team. You can already use it, and yeah, it seems to be quite promising. Yeah, so now so yeah, some open questions. So
These are questions for us.
yeah, more reaction or ideas.
Well, the first question is probably for any kind of performance optimization, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Because that's always the stuff that you do in the end that will break your maintenance, break your, everything, right? So I always think it's important to understand where performance matters, right? Because if you're gonna optimize your loop, where you have, 100 users you loop over in the array, and you optimize it so you can't read the code anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, right? You need to
exactly.
think of maintenance and all these kind of things.
Yeah, you should always optimize. The big leak first, obviously, but it's something that you have to think of because it's not obvious what is a big performance issue when you got your application, but most of the time there is one big performance issue, and you should at first go for the first one and then try to. But I think the thing is, if you use bindwise, for instance, you gain a lot of performance, but it kind of break most of the power of Angular. if you if you don't use Watcher, you have more performance, but you have less power. So I think maybe Angular gives us some new tools that are very nice, but so are we really to? It's a trade-off, but it's not. Maybe we are not used to this kind of trade-off before Angular, at least in the area of the web.
No, I just wanted to say I found quite interesting the idea of running as much code as possible in the compiling function. I never really thought about that. Above all, when you have directives nested in ng repeats and things like that, because it's run once, and the linking function is called for each item. And I would actually go further and say, for example, if you want to watch something, I found using getter and setter a good idea. Sometimes, if you want to watch a property, use a getter and setter, and you forget about watchers. It's just like an idea I had, and I used in personal projects, and it seems to work quite well. So you remove this watcher.
Also track by, and this, like you mentioned, the property, and then it also has huge impact. Because every time you change property, the hash has to be recovered, and they have to digest that if you track by. But you mentioned that bind once. If somebody's staying on Angular 2, there is a directive bind once, and it's really huge performance. Because let's say let's talk about Facebook, like somebody posts some facts like cat on the wall, and this is not the real time, it's actually there on your wall, and the only thing that you actually have to watch is the like or whatever, like the comments. It's not that many, so don't do entry repeat on everything, just bind once all the things that you need to just display once, and all the updates will be.
But with bind once, it's the first question a bit. Now with bind once, you lose some power of Angular for the performance. So it's you you are ready to, but it's not easy to make the trade-off. To make the trade-off between because the cat could change. I mean, I don't know.
But it's just there. It's never changed.
Just delete the post and reload the entire post, right? If something is essential as the content changes, then you probably anyway have to change more than just the image in there. And it's not that a commonly used case. So.
And also, I mean, it's not part of like necessary Angular, but you have to remember that this destroy, and if you're doing a lot of real-time WebSocket and stuff updates, you have to like tell your server, look, I'm not listening for this anymore. Stop sending the updates about the cats that are not in my viewports, okay? Because this is a huge. It's not like drawing performance, but it's a network performance. And if you're using phone, you will notice your battery drain because he may still send you stuff that was actually 5 viewports ago, and your battery will drain.
I have some food for thought. I recently did a website where I was rendering 60,000 circles. And I did a scope apply on every hover. And it was fine. But I didn't render the circles with Angular, but I still did the hover with Angular. Because what I basically did, I did a custom mouse over handler with P3 actually, and then I did a scope apply. I was really fast, and I still get like the amazing data binding, but I didn't have checking all my objects. So the thing is like you can do a lot with Angular, but use it precisely, I guess.
And also, if you have repeat and it's large collection, like you said, the watch collection, like instead of evaluating thousands of expression, you will have to undigest one expression, basically this watch collection expression, or some function, like you can have a watch can be a function. you know, instead of 60,000, you have just the one thing to calculate. That's a huge performance boost.
You know, you mentioned you shouldn't use ng mouse over ng mouse leave. I would actually go further and say don't use any ng event.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's something I wanted to share, which is I thought about a way to, because every time you do an ng event, you do an apply at the end.
Yeah.
There's an apply always.
Yeah, sure.
When you, for example, have this ng key,
Yeah,
key
yeah.
down or something, you're doing applies over and over again. And sometimes it's better to create your own ng event
Mm-hmm.
and do a digest and combined with a directive that somehow mark the scope with a property, mark the scope and you do the digest of that scope. Like imagine you have a small widget and you have some kind of ng key down or whatever, but you want to do the digest of that widget.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to do the digest of the whole application.
Yeah, of course.
So you mark the scope of this widget with some property. I call it dollar something because the dollar is not going to be going to be skipped in the dirty checking.
Mm-hmm.
And this directive in call it whatever click will look for this scope and do the digest.
Oh yeah,
that.
only that's scope.
It's something I think is in my project it has improved the performance a lot because we are not doing digest applies anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we have done away with the whole apply.
On what kind of project is this?
Sorry?
On what kind of project?
It's a project we are working in our company. We cannot talk about it. It's a project,
Okay, got it.
but it's
it's
improved a lot the
interesting,
performance.
The meetup discussion on the web page, it says there was going to be discussion virtual DOM and React.js.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much for me. It's more Theo.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sorry I cannot.
Okay.
But feel free to.
Yeah, no, I just wondering, was there a link between Angular and React or any kind of maybe a comparison or something?
I guess it exists, but.
Yeah, you don't intend to talk about it.
Okay. Are there more questions?
Nothing more? No more questions? Okay,
Thanks,
so
Pierre.
thank you very much.